Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, a new poll came out today from an A+ pollster, even though the pollster has underestimated Republicans in some recent elections, which we'll get to later. But on top of that, it shows that Biden is defeating Trump by 9 percentage points. Is this nationally? Because we're constantly told that Trump is going to get decked nationally by a lot of people. And this is not a national poll. A lot of national polls before 2020 showed this result. This poll is from the state of New York, New York being the state that Donald Trump was born in. However, electorally, it hasn't really been his strong suit, as it really hasn't been any Republican strong suit for the past 20 years or so. And Biden won the state by 23.2 percentage points. It is true that Donald Trump did do better in certain parts of New York City. He improved among Hispanic voters, for example, but in the upstate portion of New York, he didn't exactly do that well, even compared to 2016. However, Republicans in 2022, well, they did pretty well, and we'll talk about that. But either way, this poll shows Donald Trump within 9 points of Joe Biden, not nationally, but in the state of New York. And this sample is a relatively fair sample. This is a D+26 sample that's more than generous for the state of New York. And yeah, we're a year away. There's a lot of undecided voters, but still, this does show something deeper than what it looks like on the surface. And on top of it, Democrats in the generic ballot are doing better against Republicans on the generic ballot than Joe Biden is doing against Donald Trump, which proves that Donald Trump is that guy. Even in a place like New York, he's going to outrun the rest of the ticket because he is not as unpopular as a lot of these generic Republicans are. But nevertheless, D+9 at the presidential level and D+12 in the generic ballot is relatively impressive. And it gets more impressive when you look at the four-way race, where if you add RFK Jr. and Cornel West to the mix, Donald Trump's margin actually improves for him. Biden only has a +7. He's up 38-31 with the third-party candidates in the mix, which is absolutely huge, and it shows how unpopular that Joe Biden really is, even in the state of New York. Now, do I think that it's going to be within 9 points at the end of the day? This is one early poll. I don't necessarily think so, but can it be a lot closer than it was? Could I see 56-42? Absolutely, and I think you're going to see that third-party vote share increase significantly as well, and that's going to eat mainly in to Joe Biden's margin. Trump also leads the Republican primary there overwhelmingly, 61-32. It just says someone else. They're not even polling all the individual people anymore because it doesn't matter. We're on to the general election. But it's crazy because we're told by so many people that Donald Trump has zero shot against Joe Biden. He's going to go out there, and some people are even saying he's going to lose by Goldwater margins. But even according to reality, according to even polls that underestimate Republicans, New York is within 10. Doesn't mean it's winnable, but in this poll, it shows it's within 10. And even if that poll's off by 10, that's still a 4 to 5 point improvement from what we saw in 2020. And there's something happening in New York. A lot of people are upset on Long Island. A lot of people in the suburbs are upset. Republicans are doing much better among Hispanic voters in New York City. You're probably going to see, depending on how Biden handles the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you might see some movement among Orthodox Jews in New York, even though they're already pretty much voting like 90-95% Republican. So I don't know how much more you can gain there. But also upstate, if Trump has that pro-worker messaging, is he going to do better with those blue-collar white voters upstate? That's another big question. It's just a portion of the electorate. But if he's doing better up there, he's probably doing better in Pennsylvania. He's doing better in Michigan. And those states, unlike New York, are swing states. They are competitive. They are very winnable. And this poll is not some pollster that overestimates Republicans. First of all, they give it an A+ rating. And on top of that, the same pollster underestimated Lee Zeldin by 5 points. And it underestimated Trump in 2020 as well, but it still shows Donald Trump losing New York by single digits. He's overperforming House Republicans by 3. They say Trump's the drag on the ticket. Really? Then why is he outperforming everybody? Why is he outperforming all the Republicans? Why did the same polls that had Republicans, down in 2022, back in September and October, when the polls ended up being more accurate than the final polls, why did those polls show Donald Trump outrunning every single Republican? It's because Donald Trump and Joe Biden were both not on the ballot in 2022. Your Republicans that were not Donald Trump. Your Democrats that were not Joe Biden. And now because you have Republicans ready and willing to use the election system to their advantage, they're doing it in Pennsylvania, they're doing it in Virginia so far. Well, maybe you're going to see a much better result for Republicans and Trump come 2024. And that much is true. And also RFK Jr., we heard a lot. Even Ron DeSantis said, he's going to take votes away from Donald Trump. He's not going to take votes away from me. Well, first of all, DeSantis, you're not going to get the nomination. Sorry, buddy, not going to happen. But on top of that, every single poll for the most part has shown the opposite. We've seen it been completely a wash and it doesn't matter, or it takes more votes away from Joe Biden. And honestly, I think in a state like New York, where you have a lot of disaffected ancestral Democrats who do not like Joe Biden, RFK Jr.'s presence on the ticket, not saying the state's going to flip, but it could be a recipe of disaster for him. It could cause some House races to go the other way, depending on how those voters vote down ballot, first of all. And second of all, it's going to definitely help Donald Trump have a very solid chance at getting his margin of loss to be a respectable one in New York, because it doesn't seem like New York is really ready to flip. Maybe 20 years from now, we could be having a different conversation, but as of right now, it's not. Lee Zeldin ran a great campaign. He got close, but still, he ended up losing by around 6 and change, which honestly was respectable, but he didn't exactly win the state. Nevertheless, Republicans down ballot, however, in more polarizing races, tended to do a lot better than in years past. Chuck Schumer has been an electoral juggernaut in the state of New York. Back in 2016, when Donald Trump went out there and he lost the state by like 21, the Republican candidate that was basically a sacrificial lamb that was running against Schumer ended up losing to Schumer by like 50 points. There were a lot of Trump-Schumer voters. There are really not any anymore. And in fact, now you have Biden Pinion voters. Pinion is just some random MAGA guy that ended up winning the nomination that really wasn't that contested. And you could say, well, some of it is down ballot effects and Zeldin, and I'll agree with you a great deal on that. But still, it has to be understood that these are still national races. National races tend to be a lot less elastic than these gubernatorial races. So Zeldin only outrunning Pinion by 8 possibly shows that New York could be on the rightward trend at the national level. And then down ballot, you see George Santos go out there, and they even billed him then as a Republican who attended the 1-6 rally, and it didn't matter. He ended up winning a heavy Biden district by quite a bit. And definitely there have been some scandals since then that have come out, as we know, but it doesn't change the fact that New York, could something be happening if somebody like George Santos is able to go out there and win a heavily Biden district? Honestly, you have to read between the lines there, but it does seem as if nationally there's some movement. Now, will it be a lot? Will it make the state actually within 9 or 7 points? I'm not ready to say that yet. This could be just an early poll with a lot of undecideds, but diving deeper below the surface, it could get closer. And if New York's getting closer, Pennsylvania's getting closer, you might see parts of Michigan get closer. Some other swing states, maybe Virginia gets closer, and maybe Trump doesn't win Virginia, but the Senate race is definitely in play there with a candidate as strong as Hung Cao is. So just looking at the whole entire picture, it does seem as if you are seeing movement to the right all across the board. Donald Trump is not as unpopular as people think he is. It doesn't matter how many garbage indictments they've thrown at him. Joe Biden is very unpopular, and he is a lot more unpopular than he was at the time of the 2020 election because he didn't have a record. His record, he basically could just campaign. He didn't even campaign at all, but when he did campaign, he would just say, oh, well, Obama nostalgia, this, that, and the other thing, whatever. Doesn't matter because he can't do that now because he has a record and he cannot run from that record effectively. And even if he does stay in the basement or he does avoid the campaign trail, it's still not exactly going to bode well for him compared to what he was able to do in 2020. And Donald Trump, he's been out of the picture, but now Donald Trump can effectively campaign on the nostalgia because now you have a record to compare against, a real record, not some VP tenure record. And because a lot of people don't like what's going on right now, they're disapproving of Joe Biden at record numbers, and on every issue he's down by 20 points or more. This White House is prime for the taking, and Donald Trump's the man who has a record, a national record, that he's been president, and you compare his term to the current term, a lot of people prefer Donald Trump's term, and even in a state like New York where Trump's not well liked, the polls are close. The early polls are close. And like I said, he doesn't have to win New York. He doesn't even have to get New York within 10. But if he gets it within 16, a lot of other states are going to be close, which means he should have no problem winning in 2024 in terms of the Electoral College. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.